Welcome back to Gold Derby. I'm Christopher Rosen. I'm so pleased to be joined by Saniyya Sidney, who plays Venus Williams in the new film King Richard, starring Will Smith, is in theaters now and was on HBO Max for a little while. So hopefully you've seen it. It's a great movie. Saniyya, thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
I'm so glad. Yeah, thank you for. I'm really excited to talk to you. I know I've been reading articles and stuff. I know you've done interviews, but it sounded like the audition process was a pretty secretive thing. I think the script pages maybe you had were like it was about a spelling bee champion, not Venus and Serena. So Williams, I know once you got through that process, I guess, and you first what was the next step? Did you do like a read with Will and like Demi? Like how did that whole process like shake out?
Oh man, it was honestly quite a long process. It was, like I said, it was like the spelling bee champion. So Sophia and Veronica, and then that slowly turned into Venus and Serena. And no, it was just like a bunch of auditions. That was before COVID, and I would go in and just kind of just figure her out, capture her essence, her energy. And after a while, we didn't hear anything because we didn't have a director. But then 6 months later, Mr. Ronaldo Green was attached to the movie. And then it was just like, go after that.
That's excellent. So what was your like, I guess for you personally, like how much do you know about Venus Williams? And like, obviously like she's one of the most famous people in the world and like one of the greatest athletes of all time. So I'm sure you were certainly familiar with her, but I mean, like how much like did you know about her life and stuff before getting cast?
Oh man, I didn't really know much at all. I mean, I knew of Venus and Serena, and my family is a big sports family. So I kind of just grew up with Venus and Serena, watching them on TV, so many other athletes growing up, but I didn't know much about their family or their father, and just how driven their father was for his girls. And I loved it. That's what made me fall in love with the story the most, is the relationship between Richard and his girls. So
it's really wonderful. I think there's so many, it's just, I love the way it's portrayed and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I want to ask you later about a couple of scenes that I was really touched by, but I guess obviously then you're working with Will as Richard Williams, Will Smith. Mm-hmm. What was that like? I mean, I think all the performances in the film are great. And I think you guys work really well as an ensemble. So I'd imagine, that was probably like, I guess, like, what was it like building that relationship on set with Will and also Anjanou and stuff like that? Yeah.
Oh man, Miss Anjanou, Mr. Will, both of them are the coolest people on earth. But I mean, we just felt so comfortable on set and we became a family. That's what I love over everything, is that like we became the Williams family. And it felt real. Like it literally felt like we were just like in a fairy tale, in a book, and we were just these amazing people. That's what it kind of felt like. But I mean, it was just my intent every day to bring my best and 100% for Mr. Will. And what I love about him is that he was like, let's be better than yesterday. So, I mean, I kind of just like stepped up to the net with him and left it all on the court. No pun intended.
Yeah, that's good. Well, you have a great scene. I mean, that's what I want to ask you. You have literally a scene at the net with him. It's later in the film, right? When you have Venus and Richard are debating whether she should go and compete in the tournament. I just love that scene so much. I think a lot of people have like kind of flagged that as a really, really touching scene. And you have this great, Will as Richard tells this great story to Venus, and it's like really emotional, and it kind of explains what his thinking is. And I guess you have a great line in that scene where you're like, do you not believe in me? I think, right? Like, it's like, not that, like, I just thought that was so, it's like very touching that she's more concerned with like, does he think she can do it more so than like, like that. And I just thought that was like, it's such a great distillation of their relationship and just like a general father-daughter thing, I guess. Can you talk about doing that scene? Because it just is such a great moment in the film. Yeah, I would love, like, what was that like?
Oh, my stomach was turning all day, but it was a good excitement. I mean, I was just ready to do that. And that was like such a evolution for Venus in that point of the story, where she was, a young woman and her tennis was out of this world, and she had this like quiet confidence to her that I was capturing every day. And I was kind of just being in the champion mindset, and that, like you said, was the most important thing for Venus, is to make sure she goes on the court and say calm, cool, and collected, but show this eye of the tiger that she has, but then also to make her father proud. So that was just like, Saniyya, how would you feel if, your mom or dad was just like, you can't do this anymore, and something that you love so much was stripped away from you? That's kind of just what helped me channel that mostly. But I don't know, that was just like, at that point with Mr. Will, we were both just Richard and Venus, and we were just bawling and crying. But each time we were doing it, it was just like we got more and more into it, and we were just looking at each other like, yeah, it's definitely time to challenge each other now. And we would just bring out different emotions in each other, and that was what was so beautiful about that scene the whole night.
That's awesome. Yeah, it is a great scene. I mean, like it's so great. And then another part you mentioned, like her quiet confidence on Venus's, like her demeanor on the court and stuff. I love after she wins her first match, you have that scene where you go into the locker room and you get to like, you have this, like, it's just so great. And that actually really made me emotional too. Like, you're so proud of yourself and like that you won and all those things. I think it's a great moment. And I guess was that in this, like, was like, how is that like, how did you decide to, like, how is that talked about how you wanted to play it and stuff? Or was that like, that scene is great. You like, for, if you're watching this, like, you just like, you go, like, you're staring in the bathroom and you're like, yes, like, it's just really good. And it's such a great moment for the character. And I think the performance again is really great. So what was that like doing that one? And what were your conversations like around that scene, I guess?
Man, I mean, we had Venus and Serena's older sisters, Isha and Lindrea Price. So they were there every day. And like, I don't know, I think for Venus, what I love about her so much is she bounces all the time when she's excited. So the bouncing was definitely important. And I was just like, okay, what's the scene that I can put the most excitement in? And they created this scene. And they were like, yeah, so you didn't grow up in the 90s. So you got to do like 90s excitement dance moves. And I'm like, okay, I will try my best. So there was different versions of that. But it was mostly just, like I said, getting to show like the essence of Venus. And that's how she is today. Just the most beautiful, bubbly person. And like I said, it was this beautiful, confident girl and then this 14-year-old girl.
Right. Yeah, no, that's really, really great. So you mentioned like the family being around, like, and as like, like there to working on the film and stuff. I mean, how beneficial was that for you, certainly as a performer, and like to get like, what were those conversations like, or did they help you in any way, like, maybe unlock who Venus was at that point, or like, like what were those conversations like?
Oh, it helped so much.
Yeah.
I mean, before we even started shooting, we had such amazing rehearsal time. So we were all just as a family together, taking notes, talking about our characters, but then getting to sit down with Isha and Lindrea. All of my sisters, we would all just sit down and talk about their life, their childhood, rules that they followed, certain things like that. They went to bed at 10 o'clock every day, certain things like that, just like specific things that we know in our mind as a family. And that was something that we talked about a lot, but it helped our performances tremendously because we have notes and notes of just who they were. It was an amazing thing just to witness that and hear them talk about their life story.
Right. You mentioned I in another interview I saw that you did, or I know just in general, the movie was obviously split up because of the pandemic, and you kind of had to take a break for a while. It sounded like maybe like 5 months or 6 months, whatever it was. So like you're in the zone, like ready to play, playing Venus, and then having that break and then coming back. I guess in that time, did that, was there any benefit to that? Like, did you get to like even like do more research or anything that was like, oh, this actually ended up maybe turning a negative into a positive, I guess, for you?
Oh yeah, it was a blessing. I mean, we definitely we were sad to not be with one another, but it gave us all time to just explore our characters even more. And I would just catch myself at night watching matches from 1998 downstairs and just rooting Venus on. But certain things like that, it just helped me and channel her 10 times more than I was doing before. And it helped because when I came back, it was time for me to be the older Venus. So I was like, oh, I did the little girl version and now I'm coming back to do the young woman version. And Will was like, you're about to be as tall as me.
That's great. We didn't even I mean, talk about this, but I'm like, obviously you're playing tennis in the film. I think it's like, you know, you're that alone. I was like watching it. I'm just like, how did you do this? And I guess like how much, like, I don't know how much went into that preparation as well. Cause obviously it's, you know, it's a multifaceted performance because you have to obviously act, but then you have to do the physical act of playing tennis and playing one of the greatest tennis players of ever and like doing it convincingly. So I guess, can you talk about that and how you were able to accomplish that?
Yes, of course. I mean, Demi and I, who plays Serena, we had an amazing coach. His name is Eric Tano, and he went to the Rick Macy Academy growing up. So they were together as teenagers. So he knew the Williams family around the ages we were playing. So that helped tremendously as well. But at the same time, he was just so amazing. And we got very specific every day. It was Monday through Friday, 2 hours, maybe 3 hours, just working out. We had a physical trainer, we do PT, you know, just getting a champion mindset. And we became athletes and we worked so hard. And I mean, after a while, we kind of just ended up falling in love with the sport and we were like the sisters. So we, any chance we got, Demi and I were rallying back and forth just to stay consistent. And we were like, oh, wow, we're actually getting really good. And yeah, we were really proud of ourselves and we pushed ourselves very much. And yeah, I think that's one of the highlights is getting to see the evolution in our tennis alone.
Yeah, I mean, it is incredible because I think if that part of it isn't like as authentic as it could be, I think it would take you out of the movie. But like the fact that you guys are so obviously good at this also, and like have worked so hard, it really makes it just adds to like the specialness of the film. I know. So for people watching, I mean, you've worked already, you know, in your young life, you've worked with so many incredible people. Obviously, like Will, we're talking about an ingenue for this, and I know you were in Fences with Denzel Washington and Viola Davis. I know you did the First Lady with Viola Davis. These are like the greatest actors, arguably, like in the last like 50 years. Some of them, like, you know, and it's like, I guess as a young performer, what is some advice or things that you've taken away from them that you're excited about, like, you know, applying as your career moves on for the next however many decades, you know?
Yes, definitely. I think just to stay humble and stay true to myself and to trust the artistry. What we do is so beautiful in our industry. And I think it's very important to make sure we lift up one another and reach out to storytellers that are trying to get the stories told in this world. That's what I love so much, is helping other collaborators create stories. And yeah, I mean, I think just bringing 100% to work, that's something that Mr. Denzel Washington would say all the time, just like speak the truth, be true to yourself. And yeah, there's nothing better than seeing a woman that knows themselves and having the confidence in themselves. They don't have to say it, you can just see it within them. So, yeah.
I mean, I think that's great. And I think, like, again, like your performance, I think that speaks volume based on the performance too, because I think you're really great in the film, and it is a great work and great film. So Saniyya Sidney, thank you so much. Please, Venus Williams in King
Thank
Richard.
you.
Thank you.